Welcome back to the Veterans Radio podcast, where we talk with heroes in action, making it happen for our veteran community. I'm your host, Dali Rivera, and I want to welcome everybody who's watching live right now on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Amazon Live, and of course, our podcast listeners. It means so much to us that you tune in every week, and without you, we would not have this episode. So hit that subscribe button and please share this episode with another veteran and let's hear your thoughts in the comments during the show. So we're going to start today with our dear Kelly Bagla, and we're going to do our legal segment. So Kelly, welcome to the show. How are you?
Fantastic, Darlie. Always a pleasure to be with you.
Likewise. Oh, we've got to meet in person one day.
Of course.
So Kelly, what do you have for us today? What's new in the law for business owners? What should we be, aware of?
Perfect. Before I answer that, Darlie, I'm going to start off by presenting our disclaimer. Any information that we share today on the show is, again, just for informational purposes only, and it does not create an attorney-client privilege or relationship. That being said, Bagler Law Firm is always at the service of entrepreneurs and business owners. And today, Darlie, I really would like to continue the asset protection part of the segment. And that is really for business owners, right? So every single day we get up early, we go out there, we try to bring home the bacon, so to speak, right? We try to make deals, we try to get business through the door, and it's hard enough running a business, let alone trying to make money at it. And then when you do run a successful business, you're going to know every single time any successful person that does try to make it, they will get sued at some point. It's not
Oh,
really a
yes.
matter of if, right? It's a matter of when. And for our business owners, because I know I'm also a business owner 4 times over, Darlie, and I know how hard it is just to make a living and protect what you've worked really hard for. So last
Right.
time, yes, go ahead.
Can I just interrupt because I think that this is going to be great for Joe to join us. So
Perfect.
let's bring in Joe, our founder, Joe Molina. Thank you so much for being here, Joe.
Uh,
Yeah, now we're ready. We're ready for you, Kelly.
Thank
Hello,
you, Dolly.
Joe.
Hi, Kelly, the wonderful Kelly. And just before we get started, I just want to say that I've never known anyone who has so many awards as Kelly does. We keep receiving um, 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 the announcements of the recognitions that you receive uh, all, throughout the year. So it's very, very impressive, and I'm very proud to know you. I'm very happy that you're working with us. So anyway, I just wanted to say that very, very impressive. But
Thank you so much,
please
Joe. The
continue.
the check's in the mail, by the way, Joe. Thank you for that. We clearly love what we do. We really do. Looking out for the entrepreneurs and getting recognized for that. We'll take it every day, any day. Thank you for mentioning that.
Of course,
Yes, but we're talking about asset protection, right? For
yes,
entrepreneurs and business owners. So last time I remember we were talking about the living trust and what a living trust can do for business owners. I want to sort of really kind of focus today on entrepreneurs that are also real estate investors. And what do I mean by that? Anyone that is holding real estate or anyone that is renting real estate. And that could be your neighbor next door. It could be the mom and dad down the street, because you probably know somebody that owns real estate and they rent that real estate out to third parties. This segment is directed exactly towards them. The normal course of what these investors, the real estate people do, is that they will purchase the property in their own name. Then they will put that property into an LLC. Then they will have that LLC engage with the tenants. So now, if the tenants throw a crazy party and somebody gets hurt, who are they going to sue? They're going to sue the person that they signed the contract with, which is the LLC. And what does the LLC hold? Real property. So really, you're not protecting your real property that you've worked so hard to get from potential lawsuits. You're literally handing it over to any tenant that signs a contract with the LLC. Now, the way it should be set up This process is tried and true, and this is exactly the strategy that we present to our clients. Anyone that holds one rental property or 50 rental properties is exactly the same strategy. We will set up a LLC, and we will either have the LLC purchase the property, or if the property is already purchased by the individual, we will transfer that property into the LLC. So the LLC is an actual owner of the property. Then we set up a management company. That management company is going to engage with the LLC that holds the property and says, okay, LLC, we need a contract from you where we can manage you. There's going to be a contract between the LLC and the management company. And now the management company has the authority to rent out a particular rental. So the contract now is going to be between the management company and the tenant. So fast forward, say there's a crazy party, somebody gets hurt. The tenants can only sue who they entered into a contract with, which is the management property. And what does the management property hold? Absolutely nothing. And if for some reason somebody tries to pierce the corporate veil, meaning that they're going to go through the management company to the LLC, there's a litany of information and evidence that they have to provide that the two are one of the same. And that's how we set up our contracts to make sure that they're not one of the same. So they're separate entities and they're both protected separately. So now your real estate remains protected from potential lawsuits. But I cannot stress enough that it's that contract between the management company and the LLC that really is going to provide that protection. You might say, well, we actually hire a third-party management company to manage our rentals because I don't want to get up 2 o'clock in the morning and run down to the rental and say, you know, toilet's not flushing. Who wants to do that? So same thing. If you have a third-party management company managing your rental, and a lawsuit occurs and someone again has a crazy party, someone gets hurt, they're going to sue the management company because that's who they've entered, the third party management company, that's who they entered into a contract with. However, that third party management company is not going to absorb any liability. It will pass it on to the LLC that holds the real property. Now there again, you're exposing the real property that is worth a lot of money. So again, you can either use your management company as yourself managing these rentals, or you can engage through your management company with the third party management company. So now when that third party management company passes along the liability of a lawsuit, it'll pass it on to your management company, which again holds absolutely nothing.
Brilliant, if I may add. That's so brilliant. Because as you're talking about right now, we are, as you know, involved with the Housing for Heroes program, which are part of it, Kelly. And the owners that we're working with right now, they have all these pieces together, but they don't have a lineup, an ABC approach on how to protect themselves from these situations. So thank you for saying that, because that's brilliant. And people are, you know, it happens, life happens, and people want to try to pass the hot potato somewhere, and it's going to be to the property owner always. And I've seen that firsthand, how people can actually take away your properties and just bye-bye. So that's brilliant. That's really
Exactly.
brilliant.
And so this is why I get paid the big bucks, right? This is why I went to school. This is why these legal strategies work, because they've been working for hundreds of years.
That's why you're the queen.
Thank you, exactly.
Yes.
And one might think, well, isn't this expensive? Why don't you reverse engineer this? Would you rather invest a little money for protection now, or would you actually lose a $500,000 worth of property? Especially in California, you're not going to find that. Now you're looking at $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 worth of property in California. So the math really works out.
That's absolutely right. Dali, anything else?
Yes. Before we go, because we're about to end this segment. It goes quick. Kelly, you are such an amazing expert, and I want people to take advantage and be able to reach out to you. So please tell our audience where they can find you, and yeah, anything else that they need to know.
Thank you so much, Dolly. They can always call the office at 760-579-6789. They can always go to our website, which is baglerlaw.com. And really, you can just Google me, Kelly Bagler, not even Bagler Law, just Google Kelly Bagler and you'll know everything there is to know about me. And we truly do love working with entrepreneurs because, again, it takes an entrepreneur to understand the needs of another entrepreneur.
So true.
I completely agree.
And if people have any
Yeah.
questions, so they just, I mean, you're on first page on Google and you're everywhere there. But if people cannot find you for some reason, they can just contact us and then we'll pass it on to you for sure.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much, guys. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
Oh, thank you very much for
Like-
taking the time.
Thank you so much,
Of
Kelly.
course.
We'll talk to you next time. And we're going to go ahead and start our segment now with our guest speaker, Jason Gleason. Jason is a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel who now provides care for our national heroes in primary care at the VA. So, Jason, welcome to the podcast.
Good afternoon. It's so great to be with you. Yeah, both you and Joe, Dolly.
Yeah, thank you. I've been looking forward to this as I was reading your bio and everything that you do. I thought, wow, how refreshing this is. The service that you're providing and how you're helping our community. So please tell us a little bit about yourself and how you began the work that you're doing today.
Thank you. I've been a nurse practitioner serving in primary care and emergency medicine over the last 2 decades. And part of that journey, I served 20 years with the Montana Air National Guard. And it was such an honor to serve during those 20 years at our medical group and to provide the support and services to our folks that would deploy overseas to our different war zones. And so since then, since I retired in 2015, it seems like forever ago, I have had the great honor of serving our national heroes now at the VA, where I'm a primary care provider.
Yeah, that's amazing. Isn't that really nice when you leave the military and then you continue in that community? You feel like you didn't completely leave, only it's a little better. You don't have to get up really early for PT or anything like that.
Absolutely. There are benefits. And, I have to say what I really appreciate working at the VA, serving for 20 years, you're on the front lines, you're in the middle of the storm. And then serving at the VA, you see a whole other side of it, taking care of these vets after they come home, seeing how devastating war can be on our veterans and the impact that can make on their emotional health, their mental health, their physical health. And just, it's such an honor to show up to work every day and to meet our national heroes and to hopefully help them in some way.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And especially because of the work that you're doing, educating people about strokes. Can you tell us a little bit on your background on how you got started with that and what it is you're doing to help our community learn about it?
Yeah, I've taken care of stroke patients in the past. And then in 2011, an event happened in my life and the life of my 3 boys that totally changed the entire trajectory of our life and honestly shattered us. I remember the day I was leaving the house and, like we tell our spouses, we'll see you later. We'll see you this evening when I get off. That casual stuff that we tell our spouses and families. And I had no idea that a half hour later, my wife, who was in great health, had just turned 40 years old. And we had this perfect life. And she showed up in the emergency department with some neurological changes. And she ended up having a stroke that was just devastating. And especially at 40 years old. And sadly, her stroke put her in a state where she was locked in this body. Her brain was perfect. She could think and she could feel emotions and have an itch that she had to scratch. But unfortunately, her stroke was so devastating that she couldn't move any part of her body from the top of her head to her toes. And that's called a locked in state. And then sadly, it just devastated us. She passed away after 29 days.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine, like you said, you say goodbye to your spouse, you don't think
Right.
that anything like that's going to happen. Wow, that's truly life-changing. And now, because of that, you're educating the public, right, about the signs. So can you share with us a little bit about the signs that people should look for. And one thing that I like that you said is that she was in great health.
Mhm.
And people don't think that it can happen. That usually people think, oh, it's an older person, or maybe they're super unhealthy. So can you give us a few tips here on how to, what we can do to prevent it?
Absolutely. And there's so much we can do to prevent it. You know, with stroke or heart attack or these health crises that so many of us face or our family members do, we feel helpless, like we can't do anything, right? And so what I find and what I teach patients is, and when I speak on the topic of stroke throughout the country, is there's a lot we can do to fight stroke and knock it out. And the very first part of that is prevent it. You know, Dali, when you look at risk factors, if you have diabetes, which it's not your fault that you got diabetes, you know, it just happens, but we can do everything we can to control it. If you have diabetes, if you smoke tobacco, or if you have high blood pressure, you basically double your risk of having a stroke over somebody that doesn't have those conditions. And so working with your nurse practitioner, your physician, your healthcare provider in your community, they can partner with you to, you know, overcome those things. Even if you have diabetes, even when all hope is lost with your health ailment, I never want people to give up. I never want them to do that. I want them to leave my office. And your listeners today, I want them to feel like $1 million instead of $1.50 regarding their health. There's so much we can do. So if you have diabetes, reach out to your provider, partner with them in controlling that. If you smoke cigarettes, that's a tough thing. It's tough to quit smoking. And there's a lot that we can do to help those patients. So again, reach out to your nurse practitioner or your physician or other providers, your physician assistant perhaps, and get the help you need. And then if you have high blood pressure, again, there too, there's so much that we can do on the prevention side to prevent it from causing damage that can lead to a stroke or a heart attack. So reach out to your provider.
Yeah. So what are some of the signs of stroke that our audience members should recognize and act on to save lives?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because the first chain in the chain of survival for stroke is identifying it and getting the help you need early on. And it's so important because what we found through science, it's mind-blowing, is that 2 million brain cells in our brain, and you have about 100 billion brain cells or more, but 2 million of them, they die off every minute that a stroke goes untreated. So if you have signs of stroke, it's so important to activate EMS. Don't drive into the emergency department yourself. And so much of the time we get in denial and it's like, I can't be having a stroke, right? This is not a stroke. But if you have any of the symptoms I'm going to cover, make sure you activate EMS, go to the emergency department, because 2 million brain cells are cooking up every minute that goes by until you get treatment. So what are those symptoms? Stroke is overwhelming and it's scary, but let this take the fear out of it for your listeners. So the symptoms of stroke, here's a really easy way to remember this. If you remember BEFAST, BEFAST, and so those are the signs of stroke. So what are they? B stands for balance. So if anyone out there, if they suddenly notice a family member or maybe themselves, they get dizzy all of a sudden, and it's not somebody that's had dizziness for a while, but acute dizziness or acute balance issues where you're going to topple over, that's a big red flag. Yeah, so that's the B. And then the E, if you're sitting there across from someone, maybe having coffee with them, and all of a sudden they're not looking at you, but maybe their eyes are darting off in an odd direction, or they report any vision changes, or if you experience those yourself, that's the E. So balance, and then the eyes, right? And then F for face. If you notice any facial drooping, or if it's yourself, if you have some odd new facial numbness, anything out of the ordinary, that too is a red flag. And then the A stands for arm or leg. So arm weakness. So you got to raise your arm up and it drops, or your leg does, any extremity weakness. So we have BEFA, and then S stands for speech. So any slurred speech changes at all, even if they're subtle, people need to pay attention to those. And then the last letter in BEFAST is time. And as I mentioned, time is of the essence to get to your emergency department as soon as you can by activating EMS, by calling 911. So I hope that helps your listeners. Never forget, be fast.
Yeah, I love that. I'm just going to go over it. You said, watch out for balance, eyes, eye coordination, or blurry vision, facial droopiness or numbness, which I think some people might confuse for, was it Bell's palsy?
Right.
You know,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And arm or leg weakness, speech, the slurring or anything like that, and time is of the essence. So then if people notice any of these symptoms, they should go to their doctor or to the emergency room, right?
Absolutely. Actually, don't go to your physician or nurse practitioner's office, but 911. And that's tough for people because we don't want to inundate our emergency department, especially these days with COVID-19 and all these other issues that they're facing. But with BeFast, if you notice any of that and it's acute, it's new for you out of the blue, make sure you go right in and do that by ambulance. Don't try to drive yourself.
Yeah. So what are some myths that we should debunk? Because right now I'm pretty sure people are like, I'm too young. I know that's one of the myths.
Absolutely. And my wife, never would we have guessed that she would have had a stroke. We didn't have living wills. I was 39. She was 40. We had 3 young kids at home. Like I mentioned, the perfect life. No way could we have a stroke or a heart attack, right? And part of it is always paying attention to your body. And when you're younger, as you know, we're invincible when we're younger, right? And so young people, the number one cause of death of younger people before the age of 40 typically are accidents. They're unintentional reasons for the death to happen: stroke, heart attack, accidents, those kind of things. So paying attention to your body, controlling any risk factors that you have, and then if you notice any changes, getting into your healthcare provider. But here's something else, and I see this all the time. A lot of patients show up and it's like, when was your last visit? Oh, I saw my provider 5 years ago, or, I felt great for the last 10 years, so I didn't need to get in. Yeah, get your annual checkup. And most insurance plans will cover an annual checkup at zero cost. Zero cost. So there's really no excuse for us not to get into our nurse practitioner and physician.
Yeah, definitely. So where can people get more information about, the symptoms or learn anything else about it?
Oh, we have some fantastic resources. Of course, there's the American Heart Association, American Stroke Association. If you go to, and I'll give you this address for your listeners if they want to write this down. If you go to WeChoose, WeChoose, NPs.org, what they'll be taken to is this fantastic website. It talks about stroke and lots of other health conditions that are facing our patients. The best part about that website, though, is it's hard to find a healthcare provider these days that's taking new patients. So if you go to this website, type in your location, up comes a list of providers that would be happy to take them on as patients and to consider that. So that's a great resource. And then for other information, I recommend, and it's so easy, my name, www.jasongleason, just like Jackie Gleason, jasongleason.com. If you go there, there's lots of other good resources, or you can reach out to me and contact me. And I'm always happy to help anyone out there, because truly.
Thank you. Yes. And are you also on social media?
I'm sorry?
Are you also on social media?
Social media, you bet. Facebook, Instagram. Instagram, it's Dr. JNP, Dr. JNP. That's on Instagram. And then Facebook, if you look for Jason Gleason in Montana, I'm the only one here. So yeah, send me a friend request. I would love to stay in touch with your audience, and certainly you and Joe. Yeah, this is such a great program. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's what we love about this podcast, that we bring in experts with so many different topics, because sometimes people don't even know what they should be asking, or what they should be informing themselves about. I certainly didn't. And when I read your story, I was just shocked, because that's not something that you hear typically. I have another question. Is stroke something that people inherit, or is it more environmentally caused, or, lifestyle changes type of stuff? Is that how it happens? Or why does it happen?
That is such a great question. Most of the time it's related to risk factors: smoking, high cholesterol. As we get older and age, our blood vessels, they get clogged up a lot of times. And there's 2 different kinds of stroke. If you think of the pipes in your house, they can get clogged up, so it blocks, right? And all that fluid backs up. Same thing can happen in your brain. You can have a blockage and blood can't get beyond it, to feed the brain cells, and that's why they die. Or you could have a hemorrhagic stroke, and that's where the pipe bursts, and you bleed inside your head. Both are devastating. There's a lot we can do for both of them. But yes, if you look at your risk factors, anything that's going to clog up your pipe, so to speak, smoking, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, those are the things that we can do something about. In my wife's case, here's the deal. We didn't know this, but she had an autoimmune condition that we were completely unaware of. that made her develop blood clots because she had a blockage kind of stroke. So yeah, it was just devastating news to find that out after the fact, because even then there's so much we can do. But it all begins with getting in for your health checks, your screening, because if you don't know what your blood pressure, your cholesterol is, you won't even know where to start. So I'd recommend your listeners certainly get out there and get those health screenings and tests done.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Jason. I've learned a lot, and I hope that our audience members have as well. So please, everybody, check him out, jasongleason.com. And if for some reason you can't get a hold of him, get a hold of us. We'll connect you.
And I hope
thank you so much.
I hope you have me back. This has been terrific. You're all amazing. Thank you for the work you do.
Of course. Thank you. And thank you all for listening. We're here every week. So make sure that you tune back in, make sure that you're sharing this episode with others, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much.